Hi, I'm Robert. Welcome back to another special edition. I would say truck talk, but the truck is a stone's throw away from where I'm at. And I just wanted to talk about something that, no special introductions, no my fancy intro, about a comment that I received on one of my videos. And something I'm a big proponent of is free speech. And so I let this comment stand on my video because this person has a right to say, as long as it's anyways, I've never deleted a comment before, and so anyways, he completely disagreed with me about what I call the natural asset companies that the federal government was going to give to the highest bidder. And he talked about the way of life, and he loves that a draconian, overreaching, unconstitutional government has taken the land into their own possession, which should not be allowed. And it's preserving his way of life. He lives in Arizona, and I guess because he said his family's been there for over 150 years, so that gives him, I guess, inside knowledge as to that what the government is doing is not unconstitutional. Anyways, my family's been out west here in Utah for over 100, close to 170 years, so whatever that means, take it for what it's worth. But as I thought about that, and I just continue to think about that it was a victory for we the people, it's interesting when he brings up the way of life. Now it's after 9 o'clock here, and I just finished up with chores after a very long day. And the way of life, well, I'm just going to kind of go off script, just kind of on a rant, so bear with me if you're new to the channel. This is not knowing how I am. Not that I'm really composed or very orchestrated or a huge production. The way of life is under attack. And the irony of his statement was he appreciates the federal government and the BLM and all this stuff. And he said, well, the states will just sell off the land too. Well, that's up to the states and that's up to the counties, but there's also constitutional provisions that prevent states from doing things, selling foreign, our land and property and things to foreign interests and things of that nature, because we're up, like I say, Utah is owned, almost 70% of the land is owned by the federal government in the state of Utah. It's huge. It's massive. And that's that way out in the west, and that's a whole nother story I could get into, the reasons behind that, not just theories or hypothesis, but proven fact. You just have to actually do your homework, put down the Netflix and stop streaming Amazon, and actually pull yourself away from the bread and circus distractions to actually see our history, source documents, and just there's truly evil people even back in the 1800s. John Wesley Powell, sorry, I had something in my throat. He is not the hero that he's projected to be, and we have a reservoir, unfortunately, called Lake Powell here in Utah, named after him. But anyways, I digress. Our way of life is under attack, especially for the farmer and the rancher. You probably don't see it if you watch the legacy CFR mainstream media, but there are huge protests. I don't say riots, but there's huge protests in all over Europe. And I'll stick to the farming application side because the farmers are under attack by the elites, the money printers, the people that are in control, these three-letter organizations. They're protesting, and you're not hearing a single bit of it on these media outlets. You have to go to alternative sources. I've just barely kind of gotten into the world of Facebook, only to promote some stuff from the ranch, things of that nature. And anyways, it just happened to come up when I was on Marketplace looking for something. Got to Harvey the barn cat wanting to get his 15 seconds of fame. Anyways, I just happened to come across the feed, and it was showing these protests all over by these farmers because their way of life is under attack by an overreaching draconian government. Or group of governments. Sheesh. I got to step away from the barrel. Harvey taking over the show. Anyways, they're protesting because their way of life is under attack. It's the whole, like I talked about in some of my other videos, it's the 30 for 30, you know, Biden's 30 for 30, where they want to take 30% of all land and lock it up in conservation, which they're trying to do. They're trying to push. They've started in 2014. They've accelerated it since 2020, and there's even a 50 for 50. And so where you have 70% of the land in Utah owned by the federal government, now it's not locked up in conservation. I have rancher friends and neighbors who have grazing permits on BLM land. things of that nature. But you literally have to grovel at their feet. And some of those people, they don't think logically, don't have time to get into that. But the point is it boils down to the crux of life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. And one of those is private property, whether it's a firearm, whether it's a car, a tractor, and specifically land. You can't be productive without land. And even this whole notion of leasing land or renting land, it's not the same. Believe me, I've been there. There's something about being able to have something tangible that's yours that can't be taken away, but being productive. And so these farmers over in Europe, they're under attack by the governments in the EU. And more specifically too, a year ago, everyone thought it was crazy when there was a report of they're going to shut down the largest oil field in Europe, and they just did. Especially when it came to natural gas, and that just happened in the state of Texas by the overlords here in this country to punish Texas from exporting liquid natural gas. But anyways, this has happened over in Europe, and the point of it is that has like a domino effect, because one of the byproducts of natural gas is creating ammonium phosphate, which also helps with the fertilizers. And it's because of the fertilizers that we've been able to grow a lot more food and help really truly feed the world. And so they've shut that down now. And what is that going to do? Everything it's cascading. It's a domino effect. It's to use a military term, it's between the flash and the bang, or there's a long fuse and the fuse has been lit, the flash has gone off, but there's not the bang yet. And so by doing this and by controlling what the farmers are able to do and how much they're able to produce, and putting these lands under conservation by force, basically it's coming down to that it's hasn't quite hit America yet, but they're trying to do it slowly and not as overtly, more covertly, and people are falling for it because of the all-powerful dollar. They think by throwing their land in conservation they're protecting it, when really, when you sign it over, you're the last one to have any sort of production. After that, it's done until it's taken back by other means and measures. So it worries me when I hear people like this, their way of life. What is your way of life? Where you can go fish up in the mountains, which is great, don't get me wrong, hunting, take your side-by-side, but what it truly comes down to is stripping away people's private property rights, stripping away the ability to produce, whether it's mining, timber, oil, because the lifeblood of this country is cheap energy, and it's been the goal of the globalists for decades now, and it's open. It's not like I'm a conspiracy theorist. Go read the white papers. They're proud of this. They brag about this stuff, where they want to shut it down, and where we can't do coal in this country, we're through the regime is selling it to places like India. Again, this is not conspiracy. Just go read the sources. There's announcements on it. So again, it's this whole attack on, now everyone's turning to the US because we're kind of that last bastion of freedom, that rugged individualism that comes through competition, and the way of life, specifically the ranching and farming, that allows the independence. And mark my words, I hate to say this, but because of everything that's happening, going on, read between the lines, I don't want to get into all that there will come a point where they're going to want to turn on us folks here in the country. They're going to blame all the problems that have been put on them by those in power, and they're going to turn on people in the country and say, go after them. And I hate to say that. It almost makes me I even hate to say it, but that's going to be the reality when people wake up in this dystopia, 250 square foot coffin size apartments with 5G washing over them constantly, and there's no food, and all just name the scenario. They say it's the people out there in the rural that's their fault. And so I challenge you to think about the way of life and to support and stand behind the farmers and those that are producers that produce the food that makes the world go around, whether it's energy, food production, because at the end of the day, we're on the front lines, whether we want to or not. And just like World War II, they didn't have advanced radar, but they knew where the important things were, because the flat guns, yay guns, and they headed right for those targets, because that's what it is. So this is Robert.